Welcome, Age of Vintage Society. Lee Van Cleef, whose steely eyes and rugged features led to a long career portraying Western arch-villains. His burning glare lit up 4 decades of great cinema. His sinister features overshadowed his acting skills and typecast him as a minor villain for a decade before he achieved stardom in spaghetti westerns such as The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. What happened to Lee Van Cleef's middle finger? Make sure to watch the video until the end and leave your thoughts in the comments. If you are new here, join our wonderful community by subscribing to the Age of Vintage channel. Lee Van Cleef, villain in hundreds of westerns. The Angel Eyes of Lee Van Cleef. They nicknamed him Angel Eyes. Being born with a beady-eyed sneer was the best thing that ever happened to me, Lee Van Cleef smiled as only he could. Tall and lean, pointed nose, high cheekbones, cruel mouth, balding head, and those cold steel squinty eyes, these physical attributes served to make Van Cleef one of the major heavies of screen westerns. Lee Van Cleef's hawk nose and squinty sinister leer made him a beloved villain in movie westerns of the 1950s and 60s. Lee Van Cleef had at least 3 acts to his life and career, a distinctive presence with a piercing stare and distinctive vulpine features. He stalked the screens for almost 40 years, immediately recognisable, and in his 90 film credits he displayed a surprisingly broad range from sci-fi and film noir to classic and westerns. Born Clarence Leroy Van Cleef Jr., January 9, 1925 in Somerville, New Jersey, his parents were Clarence Leroy Van Cleef and Marion L. Van Fleet. Both were New Jersey natives of Dutch extraction. Lee's father, a World War I veteran who served 2 years in Europe, worked as an accountant and bank cashier. His mother, by some reports, was once a professional singer. His father, an outdoorsman, taught Lee to shoot by age 10. In June 42, after his junior year in high school, Lee took a summer job on an area farm. He quit the farming job in September to begin his senior year, but in October 42 the 17-year-old left high school to enlist in the Navy. During this era, many high school seniors were given condensed courses to complete high school before entering service. Navy documents attest Lee did receive a high school diploma. Following recruit training as a sound man and in minecraft, he was assigned to the USS Incredible, on which he worked as a sonarman. The ship initially patrolled the Caribbean, then moved to the Mediterranean, participating in the landings in southern France. In January 1945, Incredible moved to the Black Sea and performed sweeping duties out of the Soviet Navy base at Sevastopol, Crimea. Afterwards, the ship performed air-sea rescue patrols in the Black Sea before returning to Palermo, Sicily. By the time of his discharge in March 1946, he had achieved the rank of sonarman First Class SO1 and had earned his Minesweeper patch. He also had been awarded the Bronze Star and the Good Conduct Medal. By virtue of his deployments, Van Cleef also qualified for the European, African, Middle Eastern Campaign Medal, Asiatic Pacific Campaign Medal, the American Campaign Medal, and the World War II Victory Medal. He was discharged from the Navy in 1946. After leaving the Navy, Van Cleef received his first acting role as a reader for the play Our Town at the Little Theatre Group in Clinton, New Jersey. From there he continued to meet with the group and audition for parts. The next biggest part was that of the boxer Joe Pendleton in the play Heaven Can Wait. During this time he was observed by visiting talent scouts, who were impressed by Van Cleef's stage presence and delivery. One of these scouts later took him to New York City talent agent Maynard Morris of the MCA agency, who then sent him to the Alvin Theatre for an audition. The play was Mr. Roberts. He worked as an office administrator, becoming involved in amateur theatrics in his spare time. An audition for a professional role led to a touring company job in Mr. Roberts. His performance was seen by Stanley Kramer, who cast him as henchman Jack Colby in High Noon, a role that brought him great recognition despite the fact that he had no dialogue. Kramer originally wanted Van Cleef for the role of the deputy Harvey Pell, but as he wanted Van Cleef to have his distinctive nose fixed, Van Cleef declined the role in favour of the part of the silent gunslinger Jack Colby. Although the danger of typecasting was ever present, Lee tried to appear in a variety of material. He has a standout role as a military sniper in The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, one of the best early monster movies. As well as westerns, both on TV and the big screen, Lee played significant roles in some of the finest film noirs being made in the period. Vice Squad and The Big Combo are all classics of the genre, and Lee's contribution is often the conveyance of imaginative, almost joyful malice. The sniggering henchman can also be seen in such classic westerns as Gunfight at the OK Corral and The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. He was then cast mostly in villainous roles due to his sharp cheeks and chin, piercing eyes and hawk-like nose, from the part of Tony Romano in Kansas City Confidential, culminating 14 years later in Sergio Leone's The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. He had heterochromatic eyes, one being green and the other blue. However, his sinister features with hook nose, steely eyes and sharp cheeks and chin soon typecast him in minor villainous roles in films of different genres for the next 13 years or so. But Van Cleef didn't achieve full-blown fame until he began starring in spaghetti westerns overseas. But his films proved to be a huge hit and cited him as a box office draw, largely in Europe. He was missing the last joint of the middle finger of his right hand. The finger was prominently featured in the 1966 film that starred Clint Eastwood as the Man with No Name. Rumours suggested he had lost it in a bad car wreck in 1958 or in a bar fight. In 1958, Van Cleef got into a car accident that almost ended in death for him. In this accident he suffered a serious knee injury and was unable to ride a horse for some time, which of course narrowed the range of possible roles. From 1962 to 65 his main job was an interior decorator in a Hollywood hotel. At this time he began to abuse alcohol, but a chance acquaintance with the Italian director Sergio Leone helped him return to big cinema. Despairing of ever making it further than third villain from the right, he began to paint, set up an interior decorating business, and when some guy with a goofy name asked him to meet in a hotel, he turned up expecting to submit an estimate for a paint job. Instead, Sergio Leone had spotted Lee from TV shows in Italy, and he wanted his stare, he wanted his look, and significantly he didn't want him to play the villain, at least at first. Leone offered him the role of Colonel Douglas Mortimer in his film A Few Dollars More, and the actor agreed to this offer. In For a Few Dollars More, Lee plays Colonel Mortimer, a decent man hell-bent on revenge, who pals up with Clint Eastwood's Man with No Name to take on Gian-Marie Valante's gang. It was a superb and, at last, substantial performance, and in The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, Lee would be taking joint top billing alongside Eastwood and Eli Wallach in the apex of the genre. His Angel Eyes was a villainous turn, but it was a character with depth and wit. From then on, Lee cashed in on his newfound visibility and star power with a series of spaghetti westerns in which he was given star billing, and man in black hero roles in films like The Big Gun Down, Death Rides a Horse, Take a Hard Ride, and the Sabata comedies. Back in the US, he took over the lead of the Magnificent Seven ride, but it was in Europe that he continued to find the work and recognition he'd so long waited for. Ultimately, Lee Van Cleef's brilliant performance in this spaghetti western proved to everyone that he was still in great shape as an actor. "My story suddenly turned into a rags-to-riches saga," Mr. Van Cleef said, "and just in time, too." Van Cleef had become one of the 10 most popular box office stars in Europe, where he had established himself as something of a cult figure. He played a hard-hearted, merciless and sociopathic mercenary called Angel Eyes, the bad in the film, which garnered a whopping $25.1 million at the box office against its budget of $1.2 million. He started getting several major and central characters in different films, both as hero and anti-hero. Aside from westerns and the science fiction films, 3 of his early major roles were in noir films: Kansas City Confidential, Vice Squad and The Big Combo. Van Cleef appeared 6 times between 1951 and 55 on the children's syndicated western series The Adventures of Kit Carson, starring Bill Williams. He was cast 3 times, including the role of Rocky Hatch in the episode Green Rides the Range of another syndicated Western series, The Range Rider. In 1952, he was cast in the episode Formula for Fear of the Western aviation series Sky King. He appeared in episode 82 of the TV series The Lone Ranger in 1952. In 1954, Van Cleef appeared as Jesse James in the syndicated series Stories of the Century. The type of roles played by Van Cleef did not produce many awards. He did, however, win one award in 1983. It was the Golden Boot Award, probably given out to performers in westerns. He was married to his high school sweetheart, Patsy Ruth, from 1943 to 1960, and had 3 children with her, David, Alan and Deborah. He married Joan Marjorie Drain on April 9, 1960, but the marriage culminated into a divorce in 1974. They had an adopted daughter, Denise. Meanwhile, in 1958, he met with a severe car accident that almost ended his life. He had to take a hiatus from acting thereafter, and during such time he ventured into an interior decoration business along with his second wife, Joan. On July 13, 1976, he married Barbara Havilone. By the 1980s, Van Cleef was aging and in weakened health, but he still managed to give thrilling performances in such films as Escape from New York and in a weekly martial arts TV series, The Master. Film by film and show by show, this work fully details Van Cleef's career. Each movie entry includes cast and credits, studio, running times, year of release, a plot synopsis, and a brief overview of Van Cleef's role. The background of the AB series The Master is then given, followed by an episode guide that provides air date, cast and credits, a synopsis and a comment on the episode. Comprehensive information on Van Cleef's other appearances in television concludes the work. Other notable roles for Lee Van Cleef include the role of Mr. McCann in the popular action movie Octagon with Chuck Norris, and the role of Chief of Police Hawk in John Carpenter's cult fantasy film Escape from New York. In addition, in the early 80s he played John McAllister, the first Westerner to become a ninja, on the NBC television series The Master, which aired in the US, and it was in fact Lee Van Cleef's last major TV work. Cleef breathed his last on December 16, 1989, and was buried at Forest Lawn Memorial Park Cemetery, Hollywood Hills, California. The gravestone of this great screen villain bears an inscription that says, "Best of the Bad." When he died, surprisingly, he was only 64 years. He always seemed older, even when he was young. "Being born with a pair of beady eyes was the best thing that ever happened to me," Lee said. Perhaps he'd come to terms with the villainous quality, especially once it was more of a choice than a case of typecasting. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new here, and if you want to support my work, please visit our Patreon page. Lee Van Cleef was born for westerns, but not everyone had the natural talent to be able to play a rugged western hero. Jimmy Stewart had some serious work to do on his personality. Watch this video and find out how Jimmy Stewart was forced to become a man by Louis B. Mayer.